Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast. I'm Young Gruff, and as always, I'm joined by Lachlan Teely.
On episode 209, the latest Star Wars trailer doesn't even look like Star Wars. It just looks like a sci-fi Goonies, which is super confusing. But hey, at least we're not getting a new Star Wars trilogy. Right, Ewan? Right?
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me like that?
About that. Well, we'll get into that in a second. I caught Clint Eastwood's Juror number 2. Things will be different and finished the series for Agatha All Along and The Penguin. I also got thoughts on the first 2 parts, the first 6 episodes of the second season of Arcane, and the upcoming Dune Prophecy show. I got to see the first 2 episodes there as well. Then I also watched the train wreck that is Robert Zemeckis' Here, and Lachlan and I both caught up on Transformers 1 and Red 1, but we're also going to talk about an other animated film later on.
That's right. One of Ewan's favorite movies of all time is The Iron Giant. He is a man of culture after all. Mine was the 2009 animated movie Robots. What do they both have in common? Robots. Now a new generation of kids get to grow up with a new movie about a particular robot in this instance, and that is The Wild Robot. We've recently just caught this movie. It's only come out probably in the last 2 months, but we're kind of catching up on it now because there's been a busy year for movies, and guess what? These 2 bozos are going to tell you all about what we think about this movie, so stick around to the end of the podcast to hear our thoughts about that.
Let's cue up the intro and get into it. We are professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes.
Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there.
Which actually,
Did you
this
get
is
me a
gonna
hat
be
as
bit,
well?
Yes.
So I've got Dune Cam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook.
All right.
Just call
Welcome
us
back,
bozos.
Lachlan. Bozos. The bozo with I don't have a rhyme ready.
Don't have anything?
Nah.
I
don't know. This is titled the banter section before we head into all of the news items, and I'm sorry to say
And we
I
don't ever
don't
write
have
anything
much.
down.
No.
We don't write anything down. It's
Well, the
literally just
banter is
try to-
implied, you know? It's just
Yeah, we
it's
have to
come
try to
naturally.
figure this shit out ourselves. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so
Yeah.
far it just is stale. It's quite
Oh,
stale.
I do have one thing for the banter section. I don't know if I showed this to you already.
Oh, okay. It's just an empty chair. That's all it is. Fantastic. Oh, he's back. Here we go.
I got a pen that lights up. I don't know if I showed you last week already, but that's a pen that lights up at the tip.
I don't know if you showed it on the podcast, but you definitely showed me. And
Yeah, even if I did show it on the podcast, it feels like it perfectly qualifies for. And
Hey,
it's
what's
probably
worse,
unusable.
a guy that writes notes with a light on his pen in the cinema, or someone who just writes notes on their phone? That's really, really
or the
dim.
guy who watched The Substance with you, who was clearly jerking off.
Yeah, that guy's pretty bad. I guess I can share this with you because I read
Yeah?
a book about minimizing. So I'm like getting rid of just stuff that I don't really need anymore. So one of the things I've been doing is trying to get through all of the books that I own, and I'm reading this one at the moment, Save the Cat, which is one of the most famous, you've got it somewhere, books about screenwriting. So yeah, I'm going to start making my way through some of my books that I've got. I have read probably close to I don't know, I'd say 30 to 50% of this book. I got up to it somewhere. I've read most of the book, but I then ended up stopped reading it and I read something, started reading something else. So I remember early on in the podcast, the joke was I don't read. And I can actually read, funnily enough. I read the intro every fucking week. And now I'm going to read some books.
It's amazing. I mean, I like just looking at that cover photo with the cat there. I think it's a great hook for you to get interested in what this book is all about. I have it somewhere. It's not here in my room right now, but I've read it too. Great book.
Yeah, to move all the hentai books away.
Do you think that hits our quota for banter this week? Can we move
I guess
on?
so. I think that last
feel
one
like
was
we've
pretty
been-
good. That last little slide in there joke was pretty good. I'll take that one.
I feel like rushing into the quick news is almost like we're jumping you straight away. Like someone comes at you with their lights up, but it's the front lights thing that
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called in English, but basically the ones that are supposed to give you a view when it's not as visible when
You
there's a
mean
bunch of fog.
high beams?
High beams. I've never heard that because they've never been brought up in anyone who's speaks English has brought that up to me. So when it occurred, so
What would you
more I
call
know, Flutlichter. which is just German. So I don't know.
Sounds way cooler than High Beams.
Yeah, I mean, High Beams is also sound very cool. I would have just quoted the Kanye song like Ultralight Beam. I think that one would also fit.
Oh, yeah.
for what.
I don't think you can quote
Anyways.
Kanye anymore. I think that's also
Yeah, no, it's just like
we should get
no,
into quick
no.
news. We should go into quick news because they're slowly going to get cancelled if we keep talking about Kanye.
Exactly. Let's kick it off. All right. Quick news of the week. A new Godzilla movie is in the works from Godzilla Minus One director Takashi Yamazaki. The Japanese studio giant Toho revealed on Friday that the 38th film featuring the world's favorite rampaging kaiju has officially been greenlit.
X-Men Dark Phoenix and the 355 director Simon Kinberg has been tapped to write and produce a new Star Wars trilogy. He was the producer for all the X-Men films since First Class.
Welgo acquires Donnie Ya's action film Striking Rescue for North America. The movie is being hyped as Ya's return to the high-octane Muay Thai fight tradition that made him an international action star.
Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17 has been delayed yet again, this time for a IMAX release globally. The new date is April 18th, 2025.
The Michael Jackson biopic by Lionsgate has also been delayed from April 18th to October 3rd. Lionsgate also announced a 2025 release date for Aziz Ansari's Good Fortune, starring Seth Rogen and Keanu Reeves.
Nicholas Braun, David Castaneda, O.T. Fagbenley joined Dakota Johnson in Splitsville, a sex comedy film.
Then the European Film Awards have announced their nominees, including The Substance, Emilia Perez, The Room Next Door, Daniel Craig for Queer, Ralph Fiennes in Conclave, Tilda Swinton in The Room Next Door, among many other nominees. And they will also hand Isabella Rossellini, the Italian actress, the European Achievement in World Cinema Award at the ceremony in December. I might actually be attending this because it's happening in Lucerne, and I did get an invite, so I might be there doing some interviews. We'll have to wait and see.
Adam Driver, Jeremy Strong, and Anne Hathaway are to star in a crime film, Paper Tiger, from director James Gray.
Tom Cruise is eyeing Days of Thunder sequel for Paramount. The actor-producer is exploring a follow-up to the 1990 NASCAR racing film.
Chris Rock to direct and star in Misty Green for Neon. Misty Green is based on an original script from Rock and centers on a talented actress whose career has been stifled by her vices. Things change when the director, Chris Rock in this case, offers her a tailor-made part that could finally revitalize her path, although the situation is complicated by their turbulent past.
Tom Holland and Austin Butler's race car-focused American Speed lands at Amazon MGM.
The Safdie brothers cost A24 a fuck ton of money. Apparently, A24 Timothy Chalamet's ping pong movie, Marty Supreme, by Josh Safdie, will be its joint biggest to date and the biggest budget. It's in the $70 to $90 million range. The Smashing Machine by Benny Safdie is supposed to also be in the $70 million range.
They better be good if they cost that much. Then Gabriel LaBelle and Isabella Merced are set to star opposite Chloe Grace Moretz in crypto heist picture Dutch and Razzle Khan.
Hideo Kojima predicts Joker Folie à Deux reputation will likely change over the next 10 to 20 years. Tarantino has also praised the film, calling Todd Phillips the Joker.
Focus snaps up Studio Canal and working title Doomsday movie Pressure, starring Andrew Scott, Brendan Fraser, Kerry Condon, and more.
Jennifer Lopez and Anthony Ramos' Mattel animated movie Bob the Builder is headed to Amazon MGM Studios.
Todd Phillips wants cinemas to forego commercials before screenings. Quote, "We've paid for our tickets already."
Jared Leto, John Mulaney, and Lupita Nyong'o team up for Kempt Power's Soviet spaceship Lunik heist at Searchlight.
Dev Patel boards tennis thriller The Journeyman from Tarsam Singh.
That's the same guy who did The Fall. Warner Brothers Discovery sees streaming subs rocket to 110 million as international rollout gathers pace. But in the third quarter, revenue dipped with box office down. And in this quarter alone, they've had 7.2 million additional subscribers.
Then David Zaslav says that Donald Trump's re-election could offer media business a pace of change and an opportunity for consolidation.
Samuel L. Jackson, Andrea Day, and Edgar Ramirez set for action comedy The Honest Liar.
Korean cinema is apparently in a precarious period due to Netflix, says Jun Hawan.
Tax investigators searched Netflix's office in Paris and Amsterdam. A preliminary investigation does not imply criminal charges.
A news film study reveals 10 key viewing habits of children aged 7 to 11. We'll take a closer look at this in a bit.
Lionsgate picks up H is for Hawk with Claire Foy and Brendan Gleeson for UK Ireland as Wales shoots gets underway.
There's a first look at Virginia Woolf's Night and Day with Jake Whitehall, Jennifer Saunders joining the cast. Haley Bennett, Timothy Spall, and Lily Allen are already tacked onto the project.
Bankside Films reveals the first look at Wasteman starring David Johnson and Tom Blythe.
Quincy Jones, music icon and 7-time Oscar nominee, dies at age 91. Jones produced Steven Spielberg's The Color Purple as well as legendary music albums Thriller and Off the Wall.
Mila Djokovic is the star in George A. Romano's Twilight of the Dead. Production is scheduled to begin in March 2025.
The Japanese anime industry generated a record $22 billion in 2023, with overseas surpassing local takings. Titles such as The Last Slam Dunk and Detective Conan Black Iron Submarine contributed to the figure. And that's it for the quick news. A bunch of them, lots of it as always, but there's a couple that stand out that we want to discuss a bit further. I think first up on the list, something that he teased already in the intro, is that there is a new person, if you look back on the line of people who were just like tagged for some Star Wars projects in the last 10 years, dude, the list is endless. But now we got Simon Kinberg, who is mainly known for his work as a writer, but more predominantly as a producer. He's also made a couple films, including the 355, that actually, like, that movie was horrible. But he also directed X-Men Dark Phoenix. Wait, that movie was also pretty bad. But I guess he's done some pretty good producing stuff with some of the better X-Men films. He started with First Class and basically was also a part of like a Logan and all of that. He was part of that team. I don't know how much he actually contributed, but Lucasfilms is hiring him. I don't know if they are trying to get him to direct. I think it's more to produce and write and be involved in that process for an upcoming trilogy. So you're the in-house Star Wars guy. I'm just like, you'll always be that. Just having seen a bit more of like the actual expanded universe series. Yeah, what do you think, where we at with Star Wars at the moment?
We're in a shit spot, and I say that because they announce so many Star Wars things and then nothing comes about it. Like, there's a Taika Waititi in development Star Wars movie. There's a Sean Levy in development Star Wars movie. There's a James Mangold. Fucking who else is there? There's like a Dave Filoni one. You know, there's
that
like
one's
a
the
droid
likeliest,
story that's meant to come out. There's so many announced Star Wars projects. Can I just get one of them, please? Can I just have one of them?
No. They're still being produced in a galaxy far, far away. It takes a long time to get here, Lachlan.
It just seems that they announce a whole bunch of stuff and then
before they figure it out, right?
Shelve it. Yeah. And it's just like, can you just figure out what you want to do? And I've heard mixed things of what it's actually going to be, whether it's going to be a continuation of, like, because I've heard people say, yes, it's a new Star Wars trilogy, but I've also heard some people say that it might just be a continuation and be like an episode, you know, like, what are we up to now? Like 10, 11, and 12. Like 10, 11, and 12 would be this next trilogy, and that will probably be what happens to it because they want to stay with the same characters. I would personally prefer a new trilogy of Star Wars-based stuff with new people, because I feel like there's obviously more stories to tell within the universe. The problem you've got is the main narrative of the Skywalker saga flows so much in the main area of where this is set, like Coruscant and whatnot. Like you can't ignore where this has come from, and you can't ignore the storylines that have existed beforehand. Because if you are doing something in a similar timeline and you're in a similar spot, there's a good chance you might run into these particular characters, and it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. But I really want Star Wars to get good. Let's make Star Wars great again. That's what we want. We want to make Star Wars great again. We want to make Star Wars a good piece of content that people want to consume, and we want people to have fun. And look, we're going to talk about the Skeleton Crew trailer in a second, and that Skeleton Crew trailer doesn't really feel like Star Wars in a way. Now, it is a trailer,
Yeah.
and it might feel like Star Wars when you watch it, but this feels like it's Star Wars for kids. And if that's what they're going to do, man, I'm going to be so mad. If they're going to make Star Wars for kids and not Star Wars for adults, then they're going to have more problems on their hands than not making
Yeah.
money from Disney Plus.
You get Andor for the adults, but I really wasn't expecting Skeleton Crew to.
I think I might
thought that
start a
was an adult
Kickstarter for me to buy the Star Wars IP.
Well, keep us updated on like how much you
Thanks, man.
raise, because it's a lot. I think okay, so this is purely speculation, but looking at Disney, right? They still are the overseer of all of this, even though they bought like it's still I feel like maybe separate, but ultimately it's regulated under Disney. If their Marvel stuff with the like new continuation of like not the characters that they had gone better, I feel like that would maybe have trickled down as well, that they're a bit more confident in Star Wars too, to try something out. I feel like with them backtracking, going back to Robert Downey Jr., like bringing back something that's familiar, I can't see them do something that is really out there for Star Wars too. I feel like they're not going to do that, which is disappointing, because I feel like that's, like you say, would be a lot of stuff that could be explored if we go further away to different planets. It's an endless galaxy in that sense that you could explore with more stories. And I don't know. I have no confidence that they'll do something interesting with it, other than rehashing what we've basically already seen in just like a slightly different way. But yeah, I haven't been interested in like the new Star Wars stuff in a while. I feel like a lot of people have kind of been burnt out with the Star Wars MCU, like that stuff that used to have like really mass appeal.
Yeah.
It feels like it has overall dampened the interest in movies overall, when maybe it's a bit more like nuanced in where this interest from theater audience goers have kind of taken a nosedive, and why that is. But yeah, Star Wars, I guess they keep at least they're taking a bit of a break, you know, when it movie wise. They're not just like pushing another thing out, although with the series they've been kind of maybe overcranking them a bit. European Film Awards, right? I've never really paid attention to those. I feel like it is maybe interesting to take a look at, because I didn't know that they were happening in Lucerne, which is a Swiss town that's not too far from me. I got an invite, which I was really flattered by, to like attend and maybe possibly even interview people who are there. And if you look at the films that are nominated, obviously they're all like European films, and they have like nominations for the best European film of the year. And a lot of those films will be ones that maybe aren't really on your radar, other than maybe Flow. That's the Latvian submission to the Oscars. Emilia Perez, that was I think submitted by they definitely submitted that by France. There's No Other Land. I've seen most of the films that are nominated here, but even something like The Substance, because it's like a UK, France, United States co-production, is technically a European film. Vermiglio, one of the runner-ups at the Venice Film Festival, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, that also got a special award in Cannes. The Room Next Door, that got the Golden Lion in Venice. Sauvage, that's a Swiss film with another like claymation thing from Claude Barras, who's known for his work as My Life as a Zucchini. There's a couple of animated films, a bit of everything, and we'll link the website with all of the animations below. This is not like an indicator for those who like to speculate on the Oscars. I feel like that really doesn't give you any insight into that, but maybe, you know, the awards talk always ends up centering around just a couple few films that usually, this year maybe it looks a bit different, but usually it's the ones that gross to like 70, 80 million, 100 million. And usually you have a couple of those in there as well. This year it feels like we do have a bit of a dampened version of that awards pick movie that ends up getting in there. But this is even less so, maybe, looking at films that you definitely didn't even hear about. So be on the lookout for those. Most of the ones that are nominated, I would stand behind them. The nominations being worthy as well. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the nominees. I know you're still crafting your list of what you need to catch up on.
Oh my god, yeah, dude. There's now more movies I've got to catch up on than actual movies that I've seen this year. So fucking hell,
that's crazy.
It's a never-ending list. It's a never-ending list.
David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Brothers, being a typical piece of shit as he usually is, basically commenting on the president-elect Never. According to David Zaslav and Donald Trump, I won't be holding them back. Two pieces of shit named in the same sentence as he talks about basically the possibility of media business, a pace of change and opportunity for consolidation. What he's saying with that, I think, is also there's the possibility, I think, for mergers and stuff like that to happen a bit more. Just because someone who's been in the office doing great work, like the thing that we discussed with the one tap subscription cancel thing, Lena Khan, she's 36, just saying that because with 35 you're eligible to run for office. Just mentioning that. She'll be out. With Trump, 100%. There's no chance that she'll be there. She was working on a lot of these antitrust things, and Zaslav, that greedy motherfucker, of course, is looking at whatever he can exploit under that system. And when there's not really a disruptor in there that's trying to keep these monopolies from forming, when someone is in office, complete little red sweep from the House, from the Senate to the president. This is going to be a couple of dire years for an opportunist like Trump to greenlight a bunch of stuff that is not good for the consumer. Like, the way that he wants to cut taxes on everything. It's not even, like, obviously this is very political what I'm saying here because I'm talking about Trump and the states and whatever. But ultimately, I feel like it comes back to you, whatever your political alignments is, that you'll just get fucked over by this, whatever they end up deciding here. It's just because if you look at the recent track record for David Zaslav, he's very anti-art, very much business first. And yes, it is a business, but when you put that above the people that you're working with closely, I feel like you just come off as a piece of shit. And that's something that Trump and him both share. But yeah, I don't know if you had a look at the article. There's a bit more that it lists on, there's an interview with him in there. But I don't know, it just got me mad. I've been mad this whole week. Kevin and I have been messaging back and forth. It's like, hey, yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, like, how mad are you today? And it's usually like between an 8 to 10 since the election has been over in the States. But I feel like you're a bit more chill about that. You're far enough away in Australia where you're like, hell yeah, dude, we're about to head into summer. It's not like you're heading into cold winter like the northern part of the world right now. You seem like you're pretty chill, Lachlan. So this is all scathing by you. You're not bothered by anything.
Look, I wouldn't say it's scathing by, because I was at a concert whilst the election was going on, and people were very vocal about their opinions. I'm very much like, I'm gonna hold my opinions to myself, but it's not. Yeah, Australia is very laid back. They
exactly.
Will only,
yeah. Which is
we only
not
do,
a bad
we only
thing per
make
se,
changes when we need to make changes. A lot of people talking about, like, because there are Australian elections next year, I'm pretty sure. And people are talking about how that's going to affect Australians' politics. But you know what it's not going to affect? Disney
This podcast.
fucking ruining Star Wars.
Yeah, we'll have that consistent.
Trump would just have to tell me that he would actually get Disney to make Star Wars great again. That would close my vote on Trump. Sorry. Like, that's all I'm looking for right now.
He needs to step in, yeah. We have nothing to do. We talk about art, we talk about media, we don't talk about politics per se, but they're always so interlinked with everything that you can't really get past it when you're discussing it. And that just had me not happy this week so far from where it's going. But I feel like it's a bit reaffirming to see. It's obviously a bad trend, but that happened where, like, the recent incumbent in pretty much every election has been replaced with the new challenger from the other side, which is usually the one on the right. So you can at least see a trend that it's not maybe per se the candidates that everyone gravitates towards, just the global frustration that we are, like, currently living in. And that's very concerning as by itself, but it feels like there's maybe a realization that even the other side doesn't do anything better. They might even do it worse. So maybe it will regulate itself. That's just like, but Kevin and I were also talking, we wouldn't be surprised if there's a World War III by 2030. Anyways, moving on. There's a new film news study that has taken a look at the behavior of the viewing habits of children aged 7 to 11. Would those be, I think at this point, they're like generation alpha or even beta at this point. It was a study conducted in Europe. It's looking at the viewing habits on, like, movies and TV. And to me, the first thing is like, okay, well, do these young kids even do that? Or do they just watch stuff on YouTube? Like, what is their viewing habits? And they listed out, like, 10 findings that they had. It's maybe interesting because it's the first, maybe not even the first generation, but definitely the one that is, like, the most, like, what they call like digital natives. They've never grown up with anything that is analog, like anything different. They're used to those screens. The impact, I think we are slowly starting to feel, like studies that have come out and revealed that our attention span is really bad. Like apparently in school, if a sentence is like long, there's more than 2 sentences, people space out. They just can't look at a whole paragraph and read it. And to me, I don't know how you feel about it, but that is incredibly concerning if the attention span is like deteriorating that fast. And I noticed it with myself. I don't like to read longer things as well. Maybe that's just laziness though. If it has something to do with attention span, it's something different, because I can't just do it if I'm interested in what I'm reading. But yeah, it's just something to take note of. Yeah, we'll link it below if you're interested in like the specific findings. I don't know if you have a quick look through it, Lachlan, if there's anything that stands out to you, because you're obviously trying to look at, okay, is there anything that changes from generation to the next of what they want to experience? But the TLDR is basically, well, they want to see themselves in their media, right? They want to see like growth and transformation, it says here. They want to see like their own feelings represented and experiences to transport them from the ordinary to the extraordinary. I feel like because a lot of the media consumption doesn't happen just through films and TV, it's hard to like say what really young kids are actually watching on the internet and what they're taking away from it.
Children love to watch stories about young characters, preferably a few years older than themselves. However, if it becomes too obvious that the film or series is made, quote, for them, it can quickly become a major turnoff. Skeleton Crew is gonna flop.
Well, let's talk about Skeleton Crew. It's out December 3rd. It's the latest Star Wars series, and I opened this trailer right before the show and said like, wait, there's kids in this? I'm gonna hate it. And there's a baby elephant, and it had me right back. There's a cute little baby elephant, but then there was also a robot and space stuff. And yeah, you said it doesn't really look like Star Wars much.
No, it doesn't. It looks like a weird, like, sci-fi, Goonie, cutie, woody, look at
Stranger
this, made
Things.
for kids. Yeah, that kind of vibe. Like, if it didn't have Star Wars' name attached to it, it could literally be any, I mean, until it says like Old Republic credits, but it could literally be anything. Like it could just be any sci-fi whoop-de-doo crew thing. Yeah.
And it says
that's it.
It said like Jude Law is in it, and I thought that it was like an adult crew, a skeleton crew, a small crew who does like stuff. And
Nope.
to now found out, because I haven't kept up with it, that it's basically just a bunch of children that
kids.
I guess Jude Law supervises.
kids.
I mean, it's set in the New Republic era, right? A group of kids lost in the Star Wars galaxy desperately tried to find their way home. I just realized that this is just not for us, I guess.
Well, we don't know. I have no idea. I'll watch it, and maybe it's for me. No idea.
Yeah.
And then I'm the 11th point in that study.
Yeah, it's just, you're just like barely edging out the age thing. You're about to turn 12, I think, right? So
Yes. I can read.
one of your most anticipated films of the year got its first trailer. Joshua Oppenheimer's post-apocalyptic musical. It's out December 6th. Got its first trailer.
Yeah, man. It's a
Yeah,
musical. I'm so
it's a
fucking
musical.
in.
And they
I'm
market
so
it as a
ready for
musical.
it. I'm so ready for this.
Okay. I thought maybe you would backtrack on like, oh, I didn't know what
No.
this was. I actually don't want to see it.
No, I
Okay.
knew what it was. I heard what it was about, and then I found out it was a musical, and I'm even more excited now. I cannot wait. I'm super
Yeah.
keen. It looks super pretty, and there's so much talent in it.
It's a weird film. So I saw it. You'll find a review or my review for it in our Gantt recap. We'll have a clipped review out for it on the channel. So be on the lookout for that. You'll find it, and you'll hear my thoughts that are actually pretty favorable for the film. I think it's
Cool.
really fucking weird, and a lot of people are going to, you got to figure out, is this for you? And in, I think 90% of the cases, it will be, nope, I actually don't like this. I kind of just liked it. It's awkwardness, it's weirdness, the weird choices. If you look at the cinematography and like the places that they're filming in the salt mine, it looks stunning. It's got some great stuff in there. And I think it's like, it's challenging in a way, but it's also like dumb at the same time. And I just kind of had a good time with it. I don't know what.
So
Yeah.
keen.
But that will be out December 6th in the States. Hopefully, we'll get a release date for you before the end of the year as well, so we can discuss it in the 2024
Probably not.
movies.
It'll be next year. It'll be
We'll
next
have to
year
wait
for
and see.
sure.
Oh, Canada, Lachlan, the latest from Paul Schrader. This is based on Russell Banks's book Foregone that I got here but haven't read yet. And this one played at Gun without leaving a lot of an impression on a lot of people. I think they were expecting something better, something different from someone of Paul Schrader's name. And I think the movie is fine. I liked it a bit more than most seem to have. Since it's like had its play at festivals. It's coming out in US theaters on December 5th. It stars Richard Gere as this aging filmmaker that is, despite an illness that he has, trying to tell his life story in a very unfiltered way before it's like way too late, as he fades in and out of stories and starts to misremember stuff. And then in flashbacks, it is told for Jacob Elordi set in the 1960s, like the draft of like the Korean War. Or Vietnam War. I don't remember. Vietnam, yeah. Korean was 50s. To see him like draft dodging and going to Canada to basically do that. And it jumps all over the place. I think overall, maybe it's a bit aimless, but I kind of liked what it was doing. Having someone like Uma Thurman in it as well is another bonus. I think it had some fun performances in it. Didn't blow me away, but from this trailer, did it get you intrigued? He's moving away from like the sad angry men in like First Reformed, then we had Master Gardener, and the other one was the Card Counter, and now we got Canada. Is this the Paul Schrader film that you're interested in?
I guess so. The trailer was kind of boring, but I feel like I have to watch it because I've heard mixed things and I like divisive movies. And yeah, I don't think I've ever finished a Paul Schrader movie, if I'm honest.
Really? Well,
I
at
haven't
least
seen
the one
First
that he's
Reformed.
directed.
Which, by the way,
Yeah.
First Reformed is, I think, my
What?
oldest watch listed thing on Letterboxd. I'm pretty sure it's like my oldest. That's one of the very first thing I watch listed on Letterboxd. I never
Yeah.
saw Master Gardener. I own
Yeah.
Light Sleeper on Blu-ray. I watched Card Counter, but I don't think I finished it because it was on Netflix. So I don't think I can call myself someone who knows what a Paul Schrader movie is.
I mean, you watched Taxi Driver. You've seen some of the stuff he's written, but I guess not his.
Yeah,
own
I
films.
haven't seen any of his direction stuff. I've seen Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, obviously, but yeah.
Now, First Reformed is a perfect movie to watch post-election. I saw like someone tweet something about like Brad Summer is over. It's First Reformed forever. So that kind of caught the vibe.
Maybe
but
I'll
yeah,
watch that.
I mean, First Reformed is definitely like the one that I can praise the most. I haven't seen Mishima. That's also by him, right? So yeah, a lot of stuff to catch up on his filmography.
I thought Mishima is Mishima by him.
Yeah, Mishima is his. Yeah.
Oh,
Mishima Life
Interesting.
in 4 chapters. Anyways,
Cool.
that's it for the news and the trailers this week. So yeah, if you want to support us, an easy way to do that is just to head on over. If you're already watching on Spotify, leave us a rating there. Same goes for Apple Podcasts, any other platforms. If you're watching the video form over on YouTube, then it goes a long way to leave a like and subscribe, and maybe even recommend some of the videos to someone else. If you want to ease someone into maybe some of the stuff that we discuss, you'll also find most of the stuff that we discuss neatly clipped on the channel too. So a bit more of an easier way to introduce us to some other people. It's greatly appreciated. But Lachlan, with that, let's get to everything that we've been watching this week. All right, and to kick it off, before we talk about the wild robot in full-on spoiler fashion and break it down, there's another film that you caught up with that I caught earlier in the year that is a sort of prequel, but also a reestablishing a franchise that we know through live action with Michael Bay, with the Transformers, now in animated form in Transformers 1. So yeah, did this get you interested in they're obviously setting up a whole like universe here, titling it confidently Transformers 1. What did you think of this one?
I had a lot of fun. I didn't expect much from it. I didn't actually think it was going to be that great. If I'm honest, I'll start with the things I didn't like. Chris Hemsworth's voice it's not Optimus Prime. I'm sorry, Chris. You did your best bet. You did your best job. But I just can't get over the voice because I can hear just him. And I'm just like, I don't want that. Brian Tyree Henry nailed it. I think he did a great job as Megatron. Scarlett Johansson was just Scarlett Johansson. And everyone else, like their voices, most of them were just like guest appearances, but for the most part, I could kind of ignore who they were and I could kind of get over that. But other than that, I think that story-wise, I wasn't entertained to the maximum that I could be in a Transformers movie. I still think like the first Transformers movie, the live action one, is just like fucking so much fun. So much fun. I was entertained enough. Some of the humor got to me, but I don't think all of it landed. I enjoyed it enough, but I think I enjoyed it because I watched so many shit movies this year already that I just don't think this movie was bad. I think it was, if you, like, for kids, this movie is obviously, aimed towards kids. If you're a kid, this is going to be entertaining as heck. I had a lot of fun with it, and I feel like you would have a lot of fun with it, so that's who it's for. For me, not so much, but I still thought it was a lot of fun. So, yeah, there's just some problems with it. I just couldn't get around those problems. So, yeah, I was happy that I was surprised.
To be honest, I think Transformers 1 really surprised me in a positive way. I have the same kind of gripes with it, that some of the voice acting is obviously trying to capitalize on well-known actors maybe over the best possible role, but someone like Steve Buscemi stands out in a really positive way. I think John Hamm is also someone who's great at voice performing. And yeah, but Brian Tyree Henry, I think that like the friends to foes thing felt a bit forced at times, like the whole storyline of it all. Obviously, you know where it needs to end up, but everything in between, I was like, shit, if I were a kid watching this for the first time and this is my introduction to Transformers, this is amazing. Like, I'd love this. And then it's obviously not like completely aimed at us, but I feel like it's still for those who maybe are a bit more familiar. Than like, I only know Transformers through the Michael Bay movies. And I think a lot of our generation maybe is the same. If you go further back, then, they have the toys, the animated series, whatever. I think even for those people to get to spend time on their actual home planet when the bigger movies haven't done that ever, I think this is great for them, a great introduction to what's to come. Focus more on that. Although I did get a bit like lost in who's what and whatever. I was like, okay, what's the actual story here? And then I actually had like pretty much like at the end there, when some of the characters are revealed to like what they end up being. The moments were so hyped to me that I had like almost got chills, and I was like, oh, I'm not that invested in the story, but the individual moments are really, really exciting. So yeah, I actually quite like this one, and I can recommend it for anyone who likes Transformers. We both gave it like a 6 out of 10, but yeah, a favorable would recommend 6 out of 10. And then yeah, Lachlan, I watched a bunch of things that I'll go over in a bit to let you know. And the first one I want to talk about is Strange Darling. This is a movie that's already out on VOD. I think what is unique about it is that it tells its stories in a non-linear way in chapter form, in 5 chapters that are meant to misconstrued what's actually going on. So at each iteration and within those chapters, you get twists and turns that recontextualize the characters and the whole story within. And I think that is like, obviously that could be very gimmicky and ultimately not add up to something valuable when the characters need to make big jumps in between chapters to justify being misled so much. But I think more often than not, this actually kind of works because it is just a straight up horror suspense film. And without like trying to read as much into the societal implications and what these characters represent, it's just a really thrilling movie overall. I liked its visual presentation. I think that both Kyle Gallner and Willa Fitzgerald kind of knocked it out the park when their performances. I was surprised with some of the like supporting cast members that I knew their faces of, like they appeared. And it's a really tight film as well at like 96 minutes. I can very much recommend Strange Darling. I think that one was a really fun one. Then I caught Clint Eastwood's Juror #2. It's playing at the Geneva Film Festival right now, and it has a theatrical release in France. I think it made like 5 million over the weekend. Obviously in the States, they're not reporting the grosses, but the success of this film internationally has resulted in them giving it a bit of a campaign run, or saying like, hey, at least it had the qualifying runs in theaters, so maybe we'll try and get some awards for it. Although I don't see any of that happening. I think there's a bit of a like social media blind support of this film that's saying like, oh, fuck you, David Zaslav, you didn't put this in theaters. This is actually one of the great films of the year. I don't think it's that. It's just a really solid, simple court drama that obviously takes a lot of inspiration from 12 Angry Men, as it kind of puts a twist on that as someone who's very selflessly in 12 Angry Men trying to sway and put a discussion forward of, is someone actually guilty? I mean, there's a reason why 12 Angry Men is one of the best films ever made. It's like, I would say it's definitely in my top 10. And that's crazy for a film released in the 50s or 60s to be like still hold up that much. This movie is putting the twist on it to have someone who has a bunch of different motivations to sway a jury in one way or another, and the moral dilemmas he has to kind of work through into saying, like, I'm actually the guilty person, right? I did the crime. Someone else is paying for it. What am I supposed to do, as has a pregnant wife at home, about to be a parent, and he doesn't want to be locked away, and then he also has a history of being drunk but now sober for years, and like the easy way that he could just be like a drunk driver labeled as that because it's so far removed. Like, it makes it really complicated. I don't think it has like the most layered character studies within there, but it's a pretty good court drama overall. I liked it quite a bit, and if this is Clint Eastwood's final thing, he goes out with a bang. I think this is definitely something that any cinephile of the year should end up seeking out, and it's one of the better films of the year. I know that Kevin liked it a bit more than I did. We'll have like a review and his thoughts in a separate review. And then on here, I don't have much to say. It's Robert Zemeckis, reuniting with the cast members of Forrest Gump, with both Robin Wright and Tom Hanks returning. And it just is a CGI mess. I don't know at what turn Zemeckis is not seeing the uncanny valley things of having digital faces. I think it started with the Polar Express and just has gotten worse ever since, because he feels like he's getting closer to something. It's just so odd to see a clearly like 70-year-old Tom Hanks talk as a 16-year-old, and it's just like it just never works. It's so bad. And then the gimmick of just being on based on a graphic novel that like is non-linearly like jumping around in the same like corner of the universe that is right across the street later on from the house of Ben Franklin. So you got a lot of that comes in, and it jumps into the future with like a black family at some point. That's just a really weird inclusion, the way that he does there. And then it centers, apart from going back, on this family is in a relationship. She gets pregnant, and then they kind of stuck in this home for their whole lives. The reasons as to why they never leave this place feel more contrived and forced, because the movie needs to take place in this corner of the world. And the way that it kind of shows this ebb and flow of keeping someone stuck in one place and ultimately arriving at like a nice place. I can't really spoil the movie too much. I would give it away. It rings like ultimately what the movie wants to be about at the core, and a nice moment that it wants to have, read the total opposite to me. I felt it was like horrible in the way that it was doing that, and it was presenting it as a nice thing. So here is a really bad film. Things Will Be Different is great. We'll have a separate review for that out on the channel. Be on the lookout for that. I'll watch the Olivia Rodrigo Guts World Tour, and I am an Olivia Rodrigo fan. She has some great music. I think the parts where she like does her performances in the big like I'm just a badass girl and I'm screaming into the microphone, those moments don't work as well. But all of the ballads that she sings are actually quite moving. And I think she did a great job with that. Then I watched Uglies. This came out a couple of weeks ago on Netflix, and it's basically like a YA novel about the dystopian future that came out even before like the Hunger Games and Divergent and all of those, but it just never got made, and now it feels like so out of date and just like it's also so horrible. It's just another like Joey King movie where she's bad, the story's bad, just everything is so bad. They're clearly setting up for a sequel. Like they just basically don't end the story. So hey, maybe if it does well enough, they'll do another one. And then I also caught Green Room. Last week we talked about Rebel Ridge, and I said that I really wanted to see. I almost had watched that. That would have been perfect last week, but in the meantime, I did catch up on this. I mean, this A24 movie, really tight 95 minutes, is basically like a simple like survival movie where a band gets locked into a room when they witness something they shouldn't have, and then a bunch of like Nazis want to kill them. It's as simple as that. And then it is thrilling from beginning to end. I think this is one of the most tense films I've ever seen. Great time with it. It's amazing. And then I also finished Agatha All Along. I did the interview earlier after seeing the first 4 episodes and was like giving it a bit of the benefit of the doubt. I think it feels like it's a bit more of like not a mystery box, because a lot of, I think, the reveals were pretty easy to spot, at least if you're a bit involved in the canon of the MCU. But it felt like an escape room aesthetic with a bit of witchcraft in there. But what I like about the series that it never tries to redeem Agatha Harkness as like a character. It stays with her as a villain, and I like that. At least it didn't do that, like to like basically whitewash a character that there wasn't a good one before. Other than that, I think I didn't really get much out of it. It was a bit disappointing. And then I'm not allowed to share, like, I think my thoughts on Dune Prophecy yet, because it's at the moment, I think it's just under feature embargo. I can't review it yet. The first 2 episodes show a really different time that basically comes way before all of the stuff that happens, I guess, in the Dune movies that we've seen. They're like a couple 1,000 years removed, and sees the Bene Gesserit kind of move things into place. And what we've all expected from watching the Dune films, that they appear to be this all-knowing thing that, like, is steering the whole world into the what they deem to be the right direction. It brings up the questions of, like, is this the right direction? And it basically gives you a origin story that is actually quite intriguing. Again, I can't tell you my specific thoughts on it yet, but I'm sure we'll be discussing that as it starts airing over the next couple of weeks. And then I want to give a quick shout out to some stuff that we've reviewed before, but that you can now see a bit more easily on VOD or streaming. We got Aubrey Plaza and My Old Ass that you can watch over on Prime. A Different Man over on Premium VOD. We might talk about this one next week a bit in conjunction with our review of Gladiator 2. And then the final episode of Alfonso Cuarón's Kate Blanchett-led Apple TV Plus series is airing its last episode. It's called Disclaimer, so go check that one out. I think the last couple of episodes are actually the highlight of that show. But yeah, Lachlan, I'm done with my monologue. This is all that I've watched. What have you watched?
Hey man, yeah. So you look like you watched a decent amount of good stuff last week.
Good and bad.
That's awesome. I'm gonna let you know in probably the best to worst order of these movies that I watched them, which was also the order that I watched them as well. So, Transformers, Wild Robot, we watched all that. But last night, date night, went and saw a movie. Went and saw a movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Red One. And have you seen this one? Have you seen Red One?
No. I thought, well, at one point, I thought that you were really going to push this as the main review, and I thought it would be funny to not tell you and then do it as the main review, but I have never seen it. But we didn't end up doing that, so I guess I can't do that now. But no, I haven't seen this.
All right, so Red One is dog trash. J.K. Simmons is buff as fuck. That's why it gets 2 stars. But also, the only thing I want to say about Red One, dialogue is absolutely atrocious. But Chris Evans' accent, can't stand it the entire time either. But one thing I definitely want to make sure is noted about this movie is the meme potential of it all. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has this ability as his character to shrink down into a Oompa Loompa-sized version of himself, i.e. Hugh Grant in Wonka. That is the next biggest memeable moment of this movie. I cannot wait to see small Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson all over the fucking internet, because I can totally call that's going to be a meme. I also want...
It's a pebble.
Small Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's a pebble. It's a pebble. That's a good one. It took a second for me to get that one. I want the pebble and Hugh Grant's Oompa Loompa to fight, because man, that's going to be entertaining as fuck. So I watched Red One because it's getting into the Christmas time to get festive, you know.
Sure.
Tanika's also making her way through Adam Sandler movies. So I had the privilege of watching some Adam Sandler movies, and we started off with The Do-Over. I hadn't seen this movie in a decently long time. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, no. No. It's not what I'm particularly eager to see.
I reckon you should watch it. There's a particular charm to Adam Sandler movies, right?
Yeah.
When I say charm, it's not really charm. It's more like sexual harassment towards women in his movies. But there's a certain charm to Adam Sandler movies that I feel like I've missed And the do-over definitely has some charm. It has some ridiculous moments. And I think no matter how bad the movie is, some of the really early Adam Sandler ones have really good jokes. And this has something similar to it as well. It really has that weird like phase where he's moving away from, like, they end up just being shit. And we'll get to the real shit one in a minute. But the do-over still has comedic moments for me. And I think that the premise is still over the top. And I still love the concept of Adam Sandler playing... Like, just thinking, oh, I'm going to play this character, and it's just character's just, like, super over the top or whatever. It has this ridiculous storyline. So, if you have a moment, if you have a spare, like, 2 hours, watch the do-over.
Okay.
Because I think it's actually worth your time. And I gave it, just double checking, yep, cool, sweet. I gave it 1 star.
Yeah, definitely worth your time.
But you've seen this one.
The next one? Yeah, I think we've covered it on the podcast, actually.
We did.
Well, at least the drunk cast.
Yeah. Tanika hadn't seen it. And I kind of warned her. I was like, it's
a cultural blind spot. You definitely get. You have to educate
So
her
she put it on.
for her sake, you know.
She put it on. Her own free will. I was not ready to watch this movie again, but there is just something about him doing that stupid fucking voice that just is entertaining.
Man, you had low standards this week.
I feel really disgusting that, you know, I've definitely seen other movies multiple times before Letterboxd exists and I can't log it, but now that I log my movies, I've logged Hubie Halloween twice. I've definitely watched Apocalypse Now, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, but I think I've only logged it once.
Man hasn't seen The Godfather, but he's seen Hubie Halloween twice.
I think I have to get my fucking priorities straight. But yeah, here we are with me watching Hubie Halloween, and
yeah, I mean, you couldn't watch The Godfather on date nights, so yeah, Hubie au revoir, yeah. So like that means goodbye.
He's a interesting character, probably one of Adam Sandler's best. Also, I think we slept on this, but I can't remember how much we talked about it when it came out in 2020 because this is really early podcast days. But the thermos Swiss Army knife is one of his greatest ideas in a movie of all time because it's just like it's his fucking silver bullet to anything. Like, he needs the dig, a little spade pops out. He needs to protect himself, a little umbrella pops out. It's just ridiculous. It has a vacuum on it. It's just the dumbest but greatest like device ever created. I think it's more powerful than the Infinity Stones. So Hubie Halloween gets... You're gonna love this. Wait, you're gonna love this. I bumped up my rating from 0.5 star to 1 star for this movie on the rewatch.
I forgot how much you hated it. Yeah. I think actually, let me really briefly check if it might be on the public feed where you can check out our drunk cast. I would kind of be interested to, like, I don't know, hear again what we were saying about it. No, okay, so the episode is out. It's our drunk cast. It came out. We did this in September 2021, and Kelly was also there. I think somewhere you can also find the drinking rules. Like, we made a rule, like, every time he gets scared, you take a sip. Someone calls Hubie Puby. It's just a bunch of them. But I think it's a good time if you make something out of it. And I think with date night, I guess you enjoyed it a bit more. It's just like the silliness of it all.
No, this was today. This was just today. It was on date night.
How'd you watch this by yourself?
No, with Tanika. We watched it together.
Okay.
We're just at home. We're just watching Adam Sandler.
It's also past Halloween, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
well, this is perfect.
And I'm watching Red One in November, so we're in that little in between period where it's not Halloween, not Christmas. We can watch whatever fucking movie we want. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah. Exercising free will, I guess.
Ideal Nightmare Before Christmas is probably the best time to watch in November. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all the stuff that we watched this week. So let's get to our main review of the week for The Wild Robot.
After a shipwreck, an intelligent robot called Roz is stranded on an inhabited island. To survive the harsh environment, Roz bonds with the island's animals and cares for an orphaned baby goose.
Comes in at a runtime of a bit over 100 minutes, kind of at the sweet spot for keeping the attention span of young
children,
kids, but also
anyone,
for children, but also anyone. I think this one has an appeal for everyone, and you can kind of see that reflected in how it's been received so far. Again, this movie is out on VOD. I think on premium VOD, there's a crisp 4K version of it. And I think to the movie's benefit, I think what I appreciated the most about it is just like how stunning it looks. The colors really pop. All of the creature design is really neat and clean. And it's what you can expect from, I guess, DreamWorks at this point. They're really good with how their stuff looks more often than not. And it comes from the director, Chris Sanders, who has also done other animated films for DreamWorks, naming mainly, I guess, the most notable one being How to Train Your Dragon, which is another really, really good animated film. He also co-directed Lilo and Stitch. He made The Croods in 2013 and The Call of the Wild. That's basically his only live action one that he did. But he seems to be not really interested in doing sequels. How to Train Your Dragon, The Croods, they all got sequels. And he kicks off the franchise in a way that a lot of people connected with it. I mean, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's basically almost at 100%. It's at 98. On IMDb, it's an 8.3. On Letterboxd, it's a 4.3. It like is in the top 250 at the moment, and it's one of the highest animated films of the year. And for, I think, a lot of people, it is the frontrunner to take home the Oscar early next year. It was reportedly made for a budget of $78 million. That is actually really, truly like impressive for like a movie that looks so clean. And I think when we looked at the trailers early in the year, Lachlan, we were concerned about like how generic the story would ultimately end up feeling. And we'll get into that in a bit. That maybe I do still feel like it has some of those tendencies. Obviously, I'm in the minority here, but even on Metacritic, with the critics, it's an 85. That is really high for critics. It has also made its fair share of money in the theatrical window and has stayed there for a long time, kind of not getting like completely out of all theaters. That's the benefit of being a family movie like this. They do tend to stay quite a bit longer. It has grossed domestically 123 million at the moment, 147 internationally, so that's 271 total. That's pretty healthy growth with that budget. So glad it had a moment to succeed. So now let's get into a full-on spoiler review. We can both recommend you go see this film. This is going to be one of the biggest films of the year. But yeah, Lachlan, what did you think?
I had a pretty good time with Wild Robot. Shockingly, wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. And I guess that's maybe because of the unfortunate trend that Pixar has been going down. And halfway through this movie, I realized, oh shit, this is DreamWorks, which if you even have a squiz at recent DreamWorks output. Now, I haven't seen Kung Fu Panda 4 yet, and I haven't seen Orion and the whatever it's fucking called, which also came out.
Oh yeah, that was this year? Oh yeah.
Yes. But
Totally forgot, yeah.
Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which was I think last year or the year before that, was absolutely fantastic. You had something like The Bad Guys, which wasn't like a terrible movie, but was still like entertaining as all hell. And I've heard decently good things about both Kung Fu Panda 4 and Orion and the Dark. I was a little bit shocked to see like a new IP come out, especially in the year where they have Kung Fu Panda 4, and I feel like more people are praising this than Kung Fu Panda 4, which is super exciting.
Kung Fu Panda 4 was in my eyes, but I've never been like the biggest fan of the franchise. Actually, like really, really bad. Like it felt like one of those straight to the streaming DVD type of sequels that they used to do.
Rough.
Yeah,
that kind of sucks. But with the Wild Robot, I won't lie. It actually took me a few minutes. I would say the first 10 minutes I didn't really jive with it, and I think I fell in love with the middle part of the movie. The middle part of this narrative where you have both Roz and Brightbill kind of coming together and forming this relationship. That is the part of this movie that I really enjoyed. There is a later part with a quote-unquote villain, which unfortunately is super late in the movie to even introduce as a sort of quote-unquote villain. And I feel like the start of the movie, you get kind of rushed into it a little bit, and I feel like it could have probably been a little bit better if it could have breathed a little bit, or maybe they shortened down the middle section. And maybe this is the first time I'm kind of happy to suggest a slightly longer runtime where they could have had a longer introduction that doesn't feel like it's such a quick thing. But everything from the score to the visual appearance of this, and I think that's kind of where I want to start, Ewan, because
Mm-hmm.
since I
It's
guess
so
since
pretty.
Into the Spider-Verse, but Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, we spoke about this, had this really cool like hand-drawn technique to it. And this definitely has that same feeling, not to the same extreme nature that Puss in Boots: The Last Wish did, but I think it still has that really nice, like, it feels like it's hand drawn again.
Yeah.
And I don't think it is. It is CG, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously with the touch of an artist, but it feels like it's hand drawn, and I feel like you
Yeah.
get those sort of brush strokes you see on Roz, and you get that sort of like weird ink like fading out on the edges of like where the paintbrush would end on particular other characters. I really like the look of this film, and I think alongside that, I liked a lot of the moments. I thought it was like cinematically beautiful as well in terms of framing and how they kind of had the background set out, and especially when you had something like where Bright Bill is introduced to, you know, these other geese. The reeds are quite up and close, and you kind of feel the scale of everything really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
Certain elements are kind of close up, and you get a bit more detail. And then when a character is kind of larger, such as Roz or even the bear, you know, the trees feel a little bit smaller than what it would be if you're taking it from the perspective of a possum. So I really liked how this film looked visually, and I feel like you could definitely take some screenshots and have some background wallpaper
Skipping through it
material.
right now, I can stop
gorgeous.
randomly. It's like, and there's also a couple of different animation style, like this one sequence where they like up like where she tells a story, right? And they switch up on how it looks. It's a bit more simplistic. They are like basically in a tableau aesthetic, so it's always like their full bodies in it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it looks like it's like even more hand drawn, that it comes from someone's imagination, and it kind of represents that perfectly. I think the art style of this from beginning to end, like I also like the fuzziness of the animals. Something about it, just like
Yep.
it kind of fits perfectly. And as her, like pretty, like she's white, right, from the her plastic or whatever, her mechanics, it's all white. And as it gets like mudded up and a bit dirty, it seems like she's fitting in a bit more. And all of that, like, I think is visually, I think this movie really excels in looking at the rest of the year from animation. I think this is definitely the prettiest animated movie of the year. Like even
Yeah.
bests like Inside Out. That obviously has a lot of money and a lot of talent behind it. I think this is like all of the character design I also really liked, especially like the fox also stands out a bit amongst the others, because he's maybe also because he's like red, orange, like you kind of
Yeah.
that, but his fur feels a bit different than the others. Like it's a lot of like these subtle touches that ultimately like add up to really give you a quick and easy idea of who these characters are. Maybe at first, which the story beats, how they don't really work together, and then how they kind of connect through like a common thing of survival that they have. So yeah, stylistically, I think this movie is top tier, really, really good.
And I think one of the best parts about it visually as well is the lighting of the scenes. It's set
night
outdoors.
moments, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Really good, yeah.
There will always be a key source of light, even in like the dark moments at nighttime with the fire in their house, which just looks absolutely gorgeous. If they're outside, it's usually a golden hour of some kind, or there is some sort of like strong light coming from, whether it be, you know, a UFO, like, well, not a UFO, but like a spaceship like beaming down, like it's like you can't see much. Like even that was gorgeous. There's so many beautiful moments of lighting, and then the end obviously has a lot of red to it, and that kind of, you know, makes you feel a little bit of anxiety of drama happening, because red is obviously that kind of.
Hey, you got the
color
contrast
does
kind of, right? Green, red, contrasting colors. It also
bing,
just on
bada
the
boom.
color profile as well. Yeah, it's just it's perfect.
And obviously you said Roz slowly degrades, and even by the end she's green. Like she's got grass and green all over her, and she's fully evolved. So you got these really cool visual storytelling elements as well, that they have in this film. And again, I was kind of blown away by how pretty this was, and that is something that I don't really get to say much with even like Pixar movies, even Disney. Like Inside Out has some really good moments to it, but I feel like it just wasn't as breathtaking and as cinematic. And I guess we can probably thanks Chris Sanders for this, because I think that both How to Train Your Dragon is absolutely spectacularly cinematic. And I think
Mhm.
it does a lot of those very similar story elements, and
Yeah.
even something down to the Crudes, which was a while ago, even Lilo and Stitch. They have really cool elements to it, but I think How to Train Your Dragon is one of those other key animated movies that I remember just being like, yeah, that is a cinematic movie. I love that. And the only other ones that can really that come to my mind are something like The Incredibles. Like I remember when I watched The Incredibles as an adult, I'm like, this is a movie. This is a movie. I don't give a fuck
Yeah.
that this is animated anymore. And I think that's where animation can kind of come in. Once you kind of are watching a movie and you're kind of forgetting that it's animation because of how engrossed you are from maybe even visual storytelling or just narrative, which we're going to get to narrative shortly anyway. But I feel like that is the best part about animation, when you forget that it's animation. I had that same feeling with Boy and the Heron and a lot of Studio Ghibli movies is you kind of forget that it's animation at a point, even though it's not hyper realistic either, which is something that they've all gone away from with this hand-drawn style.
Yeah, I especially like final point on the visuals. I like the foreground elements that don't share the same type of detail work, but then it really
Yeah.
like that's the hand drawn thing that really stands out. Like it just kind of works really well in this universe that they are establishing. And I think Sanders as a director is someone who's interested, I guess, in maybe that was just like coincidence, but stories about like unlikely friendships and like Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon, like something that you don't expect, like with an alien, with a dragon, and I'm connecting with someone, and here something that is so artificial connecting with nature and seeing that disconnect from the people who have sent her that to be right to like scout this out. It's just a simple story that also has like a point behind it narratively, but also thematically. Yeah, where do you want to go next? I see you put down music. Is that another like standout to you?
That one's a little quick point, because I felt that the score was really good. There's a needle drop halfway through that's a little bit too poppy for me when they're like doing the montage of learning how to fly. That's
Yeah.
the only moment where I was like, yeah, whatever. But I really did enjoy, especially towards the end. The music was just popping off for me. I was just joy. I was into it, and linked up
Did
with
the
that
movie get you to
visual-
cry? Did you cry?
No.
Ah, okay.
I'm a psychopath. You cried. Did you cry?
This is more on the narrative side, so we'll get into it in a bit. It's
Okay.
also where my qualms with the movie start, where it got me to almost cry.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the score to the film. I think that we should just shout out who is the composer. Chris Bowers. Chris Bauer. Okay, here we go. Great composer for Green Book, Space Jam: A New Legacy, The Color Purple from last year. A lot of really big movies actually. But
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the score to this, and there are again some poppy needle drop songs. Well, not really needle drops, but like songs that come through, and I was just like, whatever. But I enjoyed the music overall.
I think that's the part of it where it becomes that sort of mold of the expected animated film, where you need those, illumination coded. The influence there is definitely felt, from easy to make you feel something because it's a poppy good song.
Yep.
Despite like the actual core of good moments being there in the story, it's an easy like catalyst to make you feel something, which is some like when you feel the same way as you said with like forgetting that something is animation because you're engrossed in the story. I feel the same way about music and the score. Oftentimes when I don't notice something happening, it's better if I notice a sting coming to like have a sad moment, a happy moment, or whatever. It feels manipulative when I'm picking up on it. When I don't pick up on it, I'm getting manipulated, but in a good way that I'm not noticing, right? So some of the to maybe go into the story, some of the, I guess, beats that the story takes in the second half, I think I really like the first half quite a bit more, where it has like the story involved. Maybe we start from this from the beginning before we jump to like something later on that I don't like as much. It's the arrival there, making connections. I think something that really stands out is the humor and how like it is kind of just like pointing out the deadly reality of this place. And I think that kind of is in a nice contrast to what the movie is like ultimately like at the core about, of this all living together in harmony. But you got the harsh realities of like nature as well still in there, propped up as like punchlines often. Did you connect with the humor? Did it get you to laugh, or were you more invested in the emotional storyline?
I don't think I laughed. I think I chuckled a few times. I didn't really find much of the humor funny. I think the standout joke for me was early on, where the possums are introduced and all of the kids start to die, and then one dies slowly and is like meningitis, it's a slow death, and then they all start naming all of the things, like all the other baby possums start naming all the reasons that they died. That was funny. And then like 2 seconds later, there's a joke about the mum being a mother to 7, and then one of the baby possums is like murdered off screen. You can hear it, you don't see it, and that made me laugh because I was like, "Fuck, that's dark." Because she goes,
it's a pretty dark
line is
humor.
like, "I'm a mother of 7," and then like the sound happens, and she goes 6. And it's a full-time job or whatever, and I was like, that is such a quick joke. And then like the baby's fine, like they bring it back afterwards. But I think that was the highlight of the humor for me, and it never really went back to that dark joke ever again. And I think I was hoping for a little bit more of that, but obviously it's a kids movie, so I can't really expect that. So yeah, I never really thought the humor got better than probably the first like 20 minutes. And then I was kind of like okay with it, because I actually enjoyed where the narrative went for the most part. But obviously you don't at some point. So did you laugh? Did you chuckle? Did you feel like you're at a stand-up comedy show?
Yeah, so I got to see this at the like trade show in Locarno that has, instead of, usually I'm often at press screenings, sometimes in public screenings. This one was for like the cinema owners and everyone that chased it in it. Like I watched Anora there again, and I was definitely the one who had the best time in the whole theater with Anora. I feel like a lot of people were like not vibing with it 100%. Maybe it's because it's a bit of an older audience that was there. And with this one, I think the love was there all around, and I could kind of feel everyone have a good time with it, and I felt the same. And I was really, really surprised up until like about an hour in, and this is obviously like now where we would say, here's your spoiler warning. I think up to this point we haven't really touched on anything like super specific yet, but I really enjoyed that moment when he flies off, and it's basically a goodbye between those two. And obviously you don't end the movie around the 1 hour mark. It's also really sad, that moment. And I was like, damn, that's such a good moment between these two. And maybe you have a moment where, I don't know, like you see their separate stories and they connect again, and that's the end of the film. And it's about like an hour 10 minutes long, really short film. But then the beats that what you just said, like the humor doesn't get better than this, and the dark humor and all that. I think from that point on, it is so much just like, here's an action beat of like them. Oh, this is like, I don't know. It seems so generic from there on out, of like, okay, the rest of the story is about like how it's all happy go together. We're all a big family, when that wasn't the core focus of it before. It was obviously to find yourself, to be accepted, to excel despite like the harsh realities of life and not fitting in, all of that. And then it just kind of makes it all about like the thing of, here's one person who changes everything for the better. And to me, that is so generic from the story that is propped up before, of like just the individual story of someone trying to fit in and trying to find the core self that needs to have a belonging within a group that makes sense, in a species sense here, and understanding that, and then letting go. And then it completely backtracks everything it says about letting go, to me at least. And I think a lot of people don't like, I talked about this with Kevin as well, and he said like he completely disagrees. He thinks like all of the beats that come later on make it a stronger film. I just was disappointed that like I loved the movie that much. It got me to like almost like, I think a tear or two came out when it flies off and you see the sad like robot just like propped up on the hill looking as he's flying away. And then it does the whole thing where it feels like it cheated me out of getting a real emotion out of me, and it was like, oh well, you need to have the good happy ending for a kids film. When I thought, hey, that's me who has this favorite like animated film be Graves of the Fireflies, right? So I like the miserable, and people aren't like that. So maybe, it was just my expectations that I had set up for me within the first hour of the film that were then mismatched by what preceded it, and I read the film wrong with my expectations that I set for myself. Yeah, I don't know. What did you think about like the whole latter half of the film, and that like do you see like a difference between the first part and the second half of it, like in what it focuses on?
I totally get your point. I could see this movie ending at that moment where Bright Bill leaves, and because like that shot of like Roz running through the forest and then just the geese all in the sky, I was like, fuck, that's
pretty.
a good shot, so
Yeah,
pretty.
no. Got me to
like,
cry.
That's a good conclusion, and I thought maybe the narrative could have just been that, because after that it becomes all about like, you know, helping out one another and this sort of a different narrative to the first half. And then obviously you have that robot that's introduced, the villain robot that's introduced, and I don't know why they introduced that, because it seems like it's two different movies. Yeah. I really don't like the second half of this movie as much as the first half. I feel like it's not as...
God damn it, Lachlan, we agree too much, man.
Yeah, no, but like it's not to the degree of like the same as you. I just didn't think that it felt like two different movies, and it felt like, oh, right. Okay, that's a bit unfortunate, especially because there's not really much in the first half that sets up anything in the second half, and there's not a lot of stuff in the second half that's set up in the first half, right? So you don't really have this clear separation of stories of Bright Bill leaving. Like you have a fucking you literally have 3 objectives. They just 3 acts. Like, just do that. Don't make a 4th act, because that's what it feels like. You feel like you've got him swimming, you've got him eating, and then you've got him flying. That should be the end. And then him leaving, like saying goodbye, is not a bad thing. And then you can have a sequel be this, because it feels like this second story should be more of a sequel, and they obviously set up a sequel as well.
It feels like them reuniting, right? The typical thing that a second movie, especially animated, starts off of, where we have like the grace period of like, hey, here's everyone that you know from the first one and what they've been up to in the meantime. They've all become friends and whatever, and now they gotta face something that is attacking them. It's very much what they do. Isn't like the second How to Train Your Dragon basically that? It kind of feels like that, and this is all just that in one movie. Yeah, I think to me, like the reception this has had, right? The ratings of like almost a 4.5 on Letterboxd on average, over an 8 on IMDb. That type of stuff I was thinking, damn, this is one of the best animated films of the year, one of the best that I've seen in years. And then it just kind of let me down, because I felt it ended up being really generic to have those like action beats towards the end where everyone comes together. And I thought it was still like, not that it was so out there in its first hour, but it was just so solid. And then it kind of threw that away for me a bit too much, but I see when people like wouldn't agree with that at all. But so I'm like, once you hear my rating, it is a bit low comparatively, but it's just because I think the first half is like really up there as like a 4 stars, and then it just kind of comes down for me slowly. You touched on it, the sequel. We haven't talked about the cast yet, by the way. It's like really impressive, like Lupita Nyong'o, Pedro Pascal, Kit Connor, Bill Nye, Stephanie Sue, Matt Berry, Win Rams, Mark Hamill, Catherine O'Hara. There's a lot of really great people who can do great voice acting in it as well. And I think for most of it, they completely disappeared in their roles. Like, to me, no one really stood out, which is a compliment to give that we don't notice who it is, I think, in service of the story and the characters. But yeah, you think they're gonna do a sequel? I mean, it did well, a super well reception. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, it's done fine at the box office, but literally she talks about how her job is unfinished, and that is clearly setting up a sequel in my eyes. And then you kind of see them reunite together. The actual ending of the movie is a little bit funky. I think that final shot between Bright Bill and Jaws is not super necessary, but I felt that the coming together of the animals is kind of cute, like this little island. Yeah, there's gonna be a sequel. There's gonna be a Wild Robot 2, Electric Boogaloo. For sure.
Literally Electric Boogaloo, but it's in the igloo that is like where she's caught in. To me, it does like that beat one too many times of going back to that facility, that it obviously wants to have an even bigger set piece around that. Yeah. And that's why like it feels like a weird mix between like 1 or 2 movies in this one. But again, you can check the film out yourself. I don't know if you have anything else to add other than our ratings so far.
No, yeah, I'm good.
But yeah, I ended up giving this one a 3 out of 5. Again, like I said, it was a bit higher on at some point for me. It's definitely closer to like, a 7 out of 10 than it is to a 5 out of 10. But yeah, for me, it's currently not sitting in the like contenders for the best animated films of the year. But yeah, I've seen about like 30 or 40 animated films, and it's definitely one of the better ones, but just like not in my top 3, top 5. But yeah, what about you, Lachlan?
I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5. I liked it a decent amount. I think I liked it a little bit more than you. I wasn't too fussed about the whole shift and change in the narrative halfway through.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it's a kids' movie. They got to have a bigger act, big finale. But yeah, I thought it was fine.
And yeah, I would be remiss to not mention that this is one of like Kevin's favorite films of the year. I think he gave it like a 9 out of 10. He really, really loved it. So for all of those who feel like, hey, we gave this one a bit of a low rating for what you think the movie deserves, then definitely let us know what you thought of it and what you liked the most about it. Do that with the other films we discussed as well. Lachlan, if you were to pair this film up with another film, to go right after it, we called it a double feature. What would you select?
I think I made the joke about the 2009 animated movie Robots, but I think I would have to pick
iRobot.
I was gonna pick Wall-E. I actually thought about iRobot at one stage, but I think I was gonna pick Big Hero 6 because that was also the last time I was genuinely surprised by a movie, and that was a Disney movie more so, and I had a lot of fun with it, even though it wasn't anything crazy. And I think there are issues with it in terms of plot and narrative, but I had a good time and surprise with it. So similar to this, I was surprised by it. That's Big Hero 6.
It's funny that like that movie I think goes by Big Hero 6, but some international releases had it as Baymax just because they knew that was the selling point for the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, we talked about it. You mentioned it in the intro, The Iron Giant being one of my favorite animated films. I think it's also one of yours. And I thought at some point we discussed The Iron Giant. I forget if that like review that we did for it ever saw the light of day. The Iron Giant, a great film that I kept mixing up. Everyone I've talked to about the Wild Robot can attest to this, that I've almost said the Iron Giant or like the Iron Robot or the Wild Giant at some point. Like I just keep mixing those up just because they're like eerily similar, I guess. That one also has like a core theme to itself. It's a bit tighter in the narrative, but it obviously isn't like as pretty, but something about that is super interesting, like early CG animation coming in, and this one being like, the next generation of beautiful artistry matched with that type of possibilities that you have with animating something, on computers and not just hand drawn, but still having that feel. So yeah, I think that's a great double feature pick. And we do have a couple new releases this week. We already reviewed the big release of the week in the States, out November 15th. You get Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Like you said, he shrinks down to a pebble, so that's his new nickname. Chris Evans in this. Who else is in Red One, Lachlan?
In Red One?
Yeah. J.K. Simmons is in it.
J.K. Simmons is in it.
Stars.
There's a polar bear.
There's that one's going to make it big in Hollywood.
Nick Kroll's in it.
Cool. So it's certainly a movie with actors in it.
It's a movie.
And you can go see it.
Yes.
Not that we would recommend it. I haven't seen it. Lachlan caught it. Yeah, we talked about it earlier in the show, but that's out in the States. It was already out internationally in some places. Out in limited release in the States, you can catch the runner-up to the Palme d'Or in All We Imagine as Light. I think it's one of the international Oscar submissions. I believe for India, I'll correct it if that's wrong. And we'll have a review for that going up in our Ghent and Zurich recap clipped on the channel as well if you want to check that out. Then we caught this one in Venice last year as well, Day of the Fight, a smaller film, a boxing movie. It's pretty solid. And then we also got another animated film, Ghost Cat Anzu, that's out in limited release, as well as an Elton John doc that's called Never Too Late. And then out on November 17th, there's a re-release through Fathom Events of The Fifth Element. Out on VOD this week, between November 11th to the 17th, we got the first part of Arcane Season 2. It starts premiering on November 9th, and then every Friday we'll have another 3 episodes, in total 9 episodes of 3 acts that will begins streaming on Netflix. Speaking of streaming, over on Disney Plus, you can go see Deadpool and Wolverine. Then out on Premium VOD is Look Into My Eyes. That's an A24 film that's seemingly coming straight to digital. I didn't see that it got a theatrical release. Magpie, the latest Daisy Ridley film, is on Premium VOD, as well as Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis. So I can't wait to print out every frame and decorate my whole room with it, with this underappreciated masterpiece. Then we got another film that played in Gun, and we got a review up for it already with Rumors that stars Cate Blanchett and Alicia Vikander, and it's a story about them en route to the annual G7 summit. The 7 leaders of the world's wealthiest liberal democracies get lost in the woods and face increasing peril while attempting to draft a provisional statement regarding a global crisis. It's pretty funny. It gets a bit repetitive, but for those who like a really silly satirical comedy, Rumors might be up your speed. Then we also got a belated, I guess, horror flick over here with Melissa Barrera in Your Monster that's out on VOD, and Emilia Perez, one of the favorites for actress and picture and all of the Oscar stuff there, is coming out to Netflix on November 13th. And then for some reason, they also have a movie called Hot Frosty that's premiering on Netflix. So that's a movie that exists. It's Hot Frosty. You can see the poster. It looks really bad. We got Thelma over on Hulu, Twisters on Peacock, and Video Clicko over on the US version of Netflix. And then for Lachlan and me over in Australia and Switzerland, we are lucky enough to get Gladiator 2 a week before the Americans do. So we'll have a full-on spoiler review for that next week. And then in Swiss theaters as well, shout out to The Seed of the Sacred Fig. A really amazing film out of Iran from a director and a cast that has been pushed outside of the country since this movie was made in secret. It barely got into the Gun premiere. It's really good. It's really tense. We'll definitely be curious to hear from more people as they see like the tense thriller aspects of this movie, and then the kind of shift it takes towards the end there, genre-wise. Definitely be on the lookout for that. It could be one of this year's best. But yeah, that's all the stuff that releases this week. Next week, we'll be taking a closer look at Gladiator 2. And we'll also discuss A Different Man. But that brings us to the end of the show. Lachlan, do you have anything else that you want to bring up? Anything else to close out the show? Anything else you wanted to mention this week that people should remember us by? No?
Maybe I'll give a review on Save the Cat now if I finally finish it within the week. So it's actually a really short book. It's only like it's only 200 pages. And
Wingardium Levi outro. This is, yes, us closing off. Stupendo or whatever.
It's outro, not outro.
It's just like the
Thank you.
Camera starts floating away.
The
Anyways.
camera starts floating. I can make it do that. Ready? It's funny because the camera perspective doesn't change.
We'll see you next week. Lumos. It's not that bright.
That was so cringe. Bye.
I'm not a millennial, I promise.